How do you feel that went today with the getting the data in that sort of little game environment? Do you think that was?
I think it went well. I'm excited for us to tally up and see compared to our pre and our post what the results were. So I'm excited to see that.
I'm going to pull out our coaching tool, and we'll just kind of look at this as we talk about. So when we did it at the beginning, only 19% of our students were able to be proficient. So we had determined our different numbers. When we did it at the beginning, we only had 14 words that we read from, or that the list that they had. Today we had 16. So when we met the other day, we determined that we wanted our exceeding category to be 15 or 16, our meeting to be 13 or 14, developing 9 to 12, emerging. Do you still think that works, or do we need to make it?
I think that works, yes.
Okay.
I agree.
All right, so I know the students that you looked at half the class, and I looked at half the class, and we went through and just kind of marked the ones that were able to read the word correctly and the ones who still struggled. So maybe if we take a minute and just go through our list and then just tally up how many they were able to do correctly. Okay. I'm going to go back. I tried to do that a little bit on our way over, but I'm going to go back and check that just a second.
Okay.
So I made a copy for you, and what we can do, I'm going to take my list, and we'll just I'll write their names in each category.
Okay.
So Briley, and I wanted to look too at our list. We'll pull this out. Yep. So like looking at Briley, today she went to the exceeding category, but when she was here, she was emerging, so we saw a lot of growth with her, I noticed. Let me tell you.
Six. And so I'm going to put him up here. And we'll talk about him.
Yes, for sure.
And then
and Isabel. That's
7, 8. Okay.
All right, so in the exceeding category for my group, I had Briley and Emmy Kate.
And I had Kendon, Clark, Maya, and Noah.
Okay.
So 4 of my 8.
So we had total of 6, and then we assessed. We had 1 absent, and then we had Garado, who did the alphabet arc. So we had 16 students, so 6 out of 16. I didn't have anybody in the meeting category.
I had 1.
Okay, so 1 out of 16. Developing, I had 2.
And I had 1.
So 3. And then emerging, I still had 4 on my list.
And I had 1.
Okay, so 5. So if we take, let's just look at our percentages real quick. Since I'm not in math intervention anymore, I can use my calculator. So 6. So that would be 38 exceeding and 6% meeting. 19. 31. All right, so I'm just going to add those up real quick.
Okay, make sure it's.
And so we're missing 2,
Renzel.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so Renzel, so I'm going to so when we think about Renzel, talk to me about what you noticed about him today.
Okay, Renzel could not write the words and go around and complete.
Mm-hmm.
He only had 2 written down on his 16, but if I went over there and just asked him the checklist and asked him to read me the words, he could read them.
Yes.
So he knew the words and he could do it, but he was not doing the activity as in going around and being able to write them.
I noticed that too, because he would come up to me, and he wasn't on my chart, but I still just kind of made a note, and he was like, my stomach hurts, and so I worried too, and I know that you've mentioned before attention to being able to stay
Stay
focused on
focused,
task.
absolutely.
And so I think what we were trying to measure was, can he read the words?
And he could.
And he could read the
Right.
words. So when you did that with him, was he able to read all 16?
He was 15 out of
Okay,
16.
so I'm going to add him here. But I think we need to note that that's a struggle for him.
absolutely.
And maybe keep that in the back of our mind as we're doing things, that he's able to do that. And I know even when I have been in the classroom and working with him at the small group table, his reading ability way exceeds his ability to write and
Right.
spell.
You just have
so
to stay
that's
on
a
him to
note. So I'm
complete.
going to change that number to 7. So
So not 38,
44.
44. Okay.
So we add up. So we actually went to 50% from 19%. And I
Oh,
think that's
wow.
pretty good growth for that group of students. Now, I know that, I'm going to just make a note over here. And we'll go back and fill in some of this information as we go. Looking at the students that did grow and then our students that didn't grow, I noticed that some of those students are already in the ones that you pull for extra remediation in Tier 2. Was there anybody on that list that's not in a group that you already pull? Okay.
They're all already getting extra.
Okay, so thinking about those students, and if we already are thinking in line of Tier 2, but then also, what are some things that we can do in Tier 1 that might benefit them? Because going forward, I know you're still going to be introducing new tricky words in Skills 10, but then we have some all the way from Skills 3 that we need to review with them.
And even like before everyone came in today, we went back and were reviewing previous tricky words that they had learned besides the 16 that we were going to focus on today in the activity.
Okay.
So I definitely think keep reviewing and making sure that they're listening and paying attention. And so just continually to go over those. And when we do things, whole group calling on them to
Yeah.
make sure that I hear from them and that
Yes.
it's not getting overlooked. They're
And
not
I
getting
like-
overlooked in the group.
I agree. And I liked how when you were doing that, because I know when we first started this and they all sounded like they knew the
Right.
words, and then when we did that individually, we noticed there was a problem. But how you today went in and you, when we were doing the review, you called on them individually,
Individually.
like a spot check to read, and then they had to say it in a sentence as well. And I thought
To use
that
it in
was a good,
context,
just
right.
like for you to notice, just as a little quick assessment for you. So individual as you went. Okay. So reviewing those, were there any words that you noticed that overall, like the group that I read with, were there any of those words that most of them really had, but then there were some that were still giving them trouble overall?
I feel like even when we talked about it prior to, we knew the WH words were going to be tricky,
Mm-hmm.
or any of the W ending in that ERE, because it all makes different
Yes.
sounds in different words. And so I feel like that was a struggle.
Okay. And I noticed once was very difficult. And I feel like that's been the case the whole time. So once, and then you said our WH words. Where
Which,
and
where,
where.
and were.
Always.
And
are-
sometimes with there, they say 3.
I felt like the ones that have just been introduced in Skills 10.
They're stronger in.
Yeah.
I do too.
And just the he, and I think it's
we.
probably because
They're
they're
easier.
rhyming words for them. So here, I noted that one, and then I feel like those that end in ERE, but they all make that
The different sound.
Yes, that different ending sound. So maybe going forward, just noticing the words that themselves that are tricky.
And going over why we heard it.
Yeah. And building that in some more. Now, Evelyn, does she only come on Wednesday?
Wednesdays and Thursdays. So we can definitely use her to
Yeah.
continue going over.
And I think, now that we've explicitly taught the words, we can probably find a resource that maybe she could use to just kind of review those with them. Even just if it's just like a little quick review, that might be something that she could do when she comes on Wednesday and
Yes.
Thursday, and just pull them one at a time. Okay. All right. So knowing today is my last day in the classroom, our last part of our coaching cycle, I want us to think back to some of the things that we have used over the past few weeks, and think about what do you think is probably has affected their learning more, because we did see growth from our beginning to our end of cycle data. So what are some things that you think we did that might have impacted that?
I definitely think them being able to do their self-mapping, the tricky words, them doing it.
Okay.
Being able to like color in which part was tricky,
Yes.
writing it, hearting it again, rewriting it and saying it, just explicitly teaching it besides me standing in front of the room, telling them why it's tricky and us continuing, like having them be a part of it and do it.
I agree.
I think was a big.
Yeah, and I know CKLA does I think it does a better job than what we've had in the past of really focusing on that, but they really don't like hone into that tricky word part. It's like, okay, well, this is the part you need to just remember.
Yes, in the book,
really,
it's like, tell them this is tricky, use it in a sentence, and we move on.
And really having them write that, I think, was helpful too. So mapping our heart word or using that heart word booklet, okay. Anything else that you think that we have done? I know we've done a little bit more assessing, just kind of along the way.
And even when once we've done that, and if it goes along in the lesson where there's a story and those tricky words are underlined and the story's pointing those out and reading them, and realizing you know this word. So when you come to it, read it, you know it.
So that decodable text. And really partner reading. We have done a lot of work with trying to get them out of everything just being a whole group setting and then going around and just listening to them partner read. So I think I even learned a lot from that part as well. Okay, so if I'm not going to be I'm not going to be in there as much as I have been. I really want to be. But if I'm not, is there anything that I can do going forward that you can think of, like just to support you over the next few weeks, because we're getting ready to do our end of year
Well,
testing.
I did see a really cute little reel, and it's some heart word, like almost like it's like a little board, and so they're able to use. So we did it with them writing, and this is they're using different manipulatives to do it, and they have an actual heart where they place a part, and then we say it.
Yeah.
So those would be cool to bring in and use.
Okay. All right. So their little heart. Will you send me the link to that?
I will.
Heart word boards. I do like kind of giving them another avenue to practice. Okay.
And the more, they definitely got down the procedures of doing that.
Yeah. And I know that we started this at the beginning of April, so we're in Skills 9. And so I even think ahead to next year, because I know we start introducing them pretty early in Skills 3. Even going forward, is there something we can even start implementing earlier in the year that we think might benefit them to this point, so we're not going,
Well, I think besides us, starting this a lot earlier.
Yeah.
I think
So
that
maybe
will
using the booklets and the mapping of the words earlier.
I think that was a big asset in helping.
Okay. Also, what I like to do at the end of our coaching cycles is I have a reflection sheet that I normally give the teacher that I'm working with. And so what we do is you go through and you just look at these questions in this column, and you just kind of think about our coaching cycle and what you've learned, practices, ways, like things that you think you can carry on from this point. And then I do my own reflection as well.
Okay.
So I have a part, and I just go through and reflect about what I've learned, what I noticed about our students growing, and even some things that I can take away from my work with you and apply it to other coaching cycles. And then we just kind of come together and talk about those things. So looking at going forward, like maybe next week, I know we've got some busy days coming up, but is there a time that you think maybe we can get, if I went ahead and gave this to you, maybe we could get that together? Oh, on our teacher work day? Yeah, I think I could. Do you have any trainings?
That morning.
Okay, so after lunch? Like
1.
1? Okay.
1:30.
So I'll put 1 written. And I'll come to you with my part filled out,
No,
if you'll
okay.
just have your part filled out. And then we'll talk about just some things that we've learned together and things that we can do going forward. Okay.
Perfect.
All right. Is there anything else you can think of? Any other notes that we
You wanna
didn't
start
go
another coaching
over? We'll start another one on Monday. On Monday, we'll reflect and debrief and plan for the next.
Perfect.
Well, it's been a pleasure. I have
Yes, thank
loved
you so
this
much.
class. I've loved working with you, and I hope that whatever
very
you've gotten
beneficial.
has been
Yes.
beneficial going forward.
Absolutely,
So,
it has. Thank you
all
so
right.
much.
Thank you, Ms.
Okay,
Whitten.
thank you.